Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. So, we have said goodbye to the sacraments. Now we're in a new unit called the Lived Christian Life. In this unit, we will cover two important figures in the Catholic Church. One is St. Augustine, the other is Dorothy Day. So, we'll begin with Augustine, who was born in 4th century Africa, became a bishop, and is widely considered to be one of the most influential theologians of the Church. If you have ever heard of the idea of original sin, he is the one most responsible for developing this idea. Now, last week you read about the Donatists. So, in Augustine's debate with the Donatists, he taught that it is God who acts through the sacraments, not necessarily the priest, right? Because the priest is, like most of us, most likely a sinner. But that does not erase the efficacy of the sacraments, because God is the one responsible for them. Today, I'd like to talk about Augustine's philosophical journey that eventually brought him to the church. He was a very smart person, but he struggled with the problem of evil, most importantly with moral evil. Why do people do bad things? Why do I personally do the things that I don't wish to do? Where does evil come from? Once as a young person, he went with a bunch of friends to steal pears from a pear tree. And he couldn't stop thinking about this episode. If he had been all alone by himself, he would never have done such a thing. So was it peer pressure then that made him do it? What was the root of evil that made him steal and then not eat the pears and just throw them away? Another issue he struggled with was sexual sins. He kept a concubine for a long time. Even though he loved her, he knew that this love was not the best kind. To solve these problems, Augustine turned first to Manichaeism. This was a dualistic philosophy that believed in the kingdom of light, which is constantly in conflict with the kingdom of darkness. Evil comes from the power of darkness. It is not necessarily the individual person's fault, but the power of darkness comes from outside of us, not from within. This philosophy, however, did not have the power to change Augustine's life, so he turned to what we today call Neoplatonism. So if you learn about Plato, he was the founder of Platonism. So Neoplatonism also is traced back to Plato. Through Neoplatonism, Augustine learned that God is pure spirit, pure truth, pure goodness, and pure beauty. Not only that, he also learned that we can participate in the spiritual goodness of God in our interior life. By looking into our own hearts, we can discern the movements of good spirit and bad. Evil then does come from within us, but it can be overcome with help from the Spirit of God. So this philosophy later prepared him to accept the teachings of the gospel. Just one more thing before you go about Neoplatonism. It does not believe in God as a person, right? It calls God the one and the absolute good. The one then is very transcendent. It is way up there. It really is very distant from the material world in which we live. But then emanating from the one, way up there, are different levels of existence. The first level is called the intellect, full of ideas and archetypes that are purely immaterial. These ideas are like perfect models for all sorts of material existence. For instance, we have all shades of red that we see in this world, but the most perfect color red only exists in the realm of the intellect, and this would be the model, right, for the colors that we see. The second level is called the soul, which has to do with emotions, feelings, and desires. The next level down is the material cosmos, human beings, animals, plants, and matter. The closer we get to matter, the farther away we are from the one, and the more prone we are to evil. Our final destiny as human beings is for us to return to the One. How do we do that? We do it through reason, through virtue, and through contemplation. So there is my short introduction. Make sure you also catch the PowerPoint introduction. The readings for this week and next are kind of difficult, harder than probably what you're used to, but I think you can do it. All right, let me know if you have questions. Bye-bye.